taking the lead. Congressman Jim Jordan joins us tonight live right by the border in Texas. And Texas Congressman Ronny Jackson, fresh off his own trip to the border, joins us as well. Gentlemen, good to see you guys.
Good to be with you, Rob.
All right, so Congressman Jackson, we're going to start with you. Senator John Corner of Texas calling for an investigation into the conditions at this Freeman Coliseum that we just had the breaking news about. What are your thoughts? What's going on here?
No, I mean, I think we're set up. Biden set us up for this. I mean, it does not surprise me at all that this is going on there. President Biden has complete disregard for what he's doing to these people that are crossing our border. Let me just give you an example, Rob. I want to talk about this as well. I went to the Carrizo Springs facility last week, and I saw the unaccompanied minors there that were males between the ages supposed to be 14 and 17. I asked these kids, some of them aren't kids, some of them are actually older than that, but I asked them, I said, look, you guys, how did you get here? And they told me, how they got there. They told me how long it took them to get there. And I said, it's our understanding that everybody has to pay the cartels to get here. Is that true? And they said, oh, absolutely. And I said, how much did you guys have to pay the cartels to get here? And they said, well, we don't have any money. We didn't pay the cartels to get here. They said, we have to work it off once we get into the country.
Wow.
I was like, work it off?
Yep.
These people are going to work it off for the cartel. They are going to work for the cartel and live in our country. And this is insane. They're going to do whatever they're asked to do by the cartel. They're going to steal. They're going to smuggle drugs. They're going to kill. Anything that they're asked to do, they're going to do. And I asked the Border Patrol agents, what happens if these kids decide they don't want to do that? They go, oh, they're never going to decide they don't want to do that because they brought them over as unaccompanied men because they have brothers, sisters, mothers that are still in their countries back in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. And if they decide they don't want to do this, they'll get a video of their family being tortured and killed. And they all know this. So they belong to the cartel. And they're coming across our borders and coming into our country in record numbers.
What a lovely situation we're incentivizing with this White House. What an absolute joke. That's an incredible story, Congressman. That is incredible. Congressman Jordan, we're talking about kids. We've got thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of kids in this country now that came alone. What happens to these kids? I've been trying to get this question in for a long time and get an answer to it. What are we going to do with all these kids? Do they just get adopted? Where do they go?
They got a family member or relative somewhere in the country, and they get sent to them. Sometimes it happens in just a few days. 16,000 kids right now in these DHS facilities after they come through Customs and Border. 16,000. On average, the turnover is 24 days. So every 24 days, a new 16,000. They estimate that number will go to 60,000. So it is beyond crisis. It is chaos. And frankly, I think that's why, Rob, that the president, the vice president don't want to come down here to the border because they don't want the American people to understand how serious it is. They don't want the American people to know what Ronny just talked about, how terrible the situation is for people who come here and what happens to their family members back in their home country. So they're not coming down. And Mr. Mayorkas is coming down tomorrow. But guess what? The press isn't allowed to go in and see. That is where the Biden administration is. And they created this mess when they undid the policies that President Trump had in place.
Yeah, I hope the press, which pushed this president into office, frankly, is enjoying the complete lack of transparency that they're getting in return. What a bait and switch they got. Congressman Jackson, in addition to being a congressman, you're a Navy doctor and the president's former physician. You've toured these facilities. You've called them COVID incubators. The Democrats are the party of COVID. I mean, that's all they talk about. But this,
absolutely,
they don't talk about this.
They don't talk about this at all, and it's very ironic and it's very hypocritical. I'll tell you once again. Whenever I went to initially to the Donna facility, where I saw all these kids just piled in, and literally 250 people maximum capacity in Donna facility, had 5,700 people in there, head to foot, side by side. You couldn't even see the floor. There was not room for one more person in there without stacking somebody on top of somebody. And then we went to the Carrizo Springs facility, the HHS facility, where they go to after they leave the Donna facility, days and days later. They're not tested at all until they get to the Carrizo Springs facility, sometimes as far out as 20 days after they get here. When they show up at that facility, 20%, and this is documented, this is not speculation on my part, they told me that they test everybody there at that HHS facility. 20% test positive the day they arrive, 5% test positive during their stay. So 25% of everybody that comes into that facility tests positive. So that's a perfect indicator of what's coming across our border. 25% of everybody crossing that border is COVID positive, and they're spreading them all over our country. We worked our butt off in Texas, wearing masks, social distancing, testing, getting our vaccinations so that we can get back to work, back to school, and back to normal life. And they are about to undermine that for everybody.
Something else, isn't it? It really is. Congressman Jordan, finally, Nancy Pelosi, back in her home district in California, had this to say about the border. Take a listen.
I'm glad you asked that question in a larger sense instead of quoting the ridiculousness of the Republicans in the Congress. The fact is that we're on a good path at the border under leadership of President Biden. It's about three things. It's about restructuring how we do what is happening there, because we were in a very bad situation under the Trump administration.
I mean, she's good, isn't she? I mean, she can spin something like nobody else.
Rob, it's exactly the opposite. We were on a good path under President Trump. We had the Remain in Mexico policy. They undid that. We deported people who were criminals. They undid that. And they announced to the world, we're not going to finish the wall. And so everybody comes. And right now, Rob, this is how crazy the situation is under the Biden administration. Right now, you and your viewers cannot get into your capital to petition your government. Yep. You can't get into your capital, but anybody and everybody can get into your country. With what Ronny just described, with COVID, or terrorists can get in and gang members can get in. That is the situation they've created by undoing policies that worked. It's real simple what we have to do. Every border agent told us that yesterday and today. Put back in place the Remain in Mexico policy until we can adequately check and see if they're eligible for asylum, eligible to enter our nation.
Well, this is a loser for them. We saw the numbers. Only 24% of Americans, and I think that's high, support this nonsense. So this is a big issue, and they're losing hard on it. So they know they got a mess. We'll see how they maybe change course on this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. Great to see both of you guys.
You bet.